So I am Kinshuk Parashar, and today we will have a discussion on how to read the newspapers and how we can make notes out of it. Okay. So these two will be main agenda, like how to make this, how to go through the newspapers, what are the articles that we have to read, and at the same time we also have to identify that what are those articles which we have to skip also. Okay. So we will comprehensively see it subject by subject, like paper wise, that what is the relevance of these newspaper articles, or what are the things that we have to find in there, and then we have to read about them. Okay, this will be our main agenda. Now see, before we go into that, like how exactly we have to read the newspaper, you have to also understand that what is the relevance of these things, what is the relevance of current affairs in your examination. That is also one thing which you have to understand here. Okay, now if we talk about the prelims examination, in that case you will find that in the prelim section we have something around 30 questions. We have something around 30 questions which are being asked from this current affairs section. Okay, some of them will be currently some of them will be properly oriented throughout the current affairs only. Okay, they will be mainly based on current affairs. Like they can ask you simply, once they have asked it, Atal Innovation Mission, it has been launched by which of the following organization, and they have given many such options, like Niti Aayog was there. There was also Ministry of Science and Technology, Ministry of Human Resource Development, and some other organizations were also mentioned there. So these type of simple things can be asked there. Okay, they have also asked other portions like this. Like recently they have asked about this mushroom which was there, and it was quite famous. It was quite famous. It was there in various viral news also. It was there in the newspapers also. So there was this mushroom which was quite famous, and they have asked about it. Okay, so there can be some questions which can be directly based on some information, some news affairs which is there. Okay, and at the same time there might be certain questions which can have a static linkage also and some dynamic portion. Like suppose that recently we have seen the election of new president. Okay, we have seen the election of new president. So now question can be framed in various manner. There can be simple question on the basis of the mode of election, how it is done. Okay, or there can be question even about the previous presidents, like how many presidents we have been having, the different presidents who are there. They will not ask about anyone particular in name, but they can ask about some trend. Okay, they can ask this question. Okay, then like if you have seen the previous year question, you might have seen there is one term which was quite famous in 2017, and that was about leader of opposition. So at that time they have asked that when this post was actually started, in which of the year, in which of the particular government it was started. They can ask about these specific things. Okay, they can ask about like in which tenure of Lok Sabha the first time we have got a women president. Okay, so these things can be asked from the previous linkage also. There can be certain things which can be there from current affairs. Okay, like if new CJI, Chief Justice of India, is being appointed. Okay, in that case what they can do, they can ask about the method of that appointment, how they are appointed. Okay, and they can also ask about some of the previous things about it, like they can mention about the first judge case, second judge case, third judge case. Okay, they can ask you also about that. They can ask something current also. Okay, that how many numbers of they can give simple this statement that the number of judges in Supreme Court is 33 at the present time. Okay, so they can have a mix of things there as well. Okay, so this is what is the nature of questions in prelims examination. Roughly around you will get 30 questions there, and out of these 30 questions you will find that 10 or 15 questions are very simple. They are very simple. They are simply based on certain terminologies, certain current articles, and this is something which you can easily do. Okay, there will be certain mix of static and dynamic portion also, and there will be some rare questions as well. Okay, out of these 30 you will find that there may be 5 questions, 2 or 3 questions also, or 5 questions which are quite rare. You might not even have heard about it. Okay, you might not even have heard about it. Now generally we have this tendency that when we are going to prepare for the current affairs, we often try to multiply our sources. We think that if we cover this current affair from 2 or 3 magazines, 2 or 3 newspapers, we might be able to cover all the 30 questions. Okay. We generally try to do this. But this would not be your right approach. You see, for the 5 questions, you are devoting so much of extra time. Why to give it there? Okay. In the prelims, it is not that you have to solve all the 100 questions. You have to solve something around 70 to 75 questions in a correct manner. This is what you need, maximum. If you have solved 75 questions very correctly, then it is all done. Okay. So see, out of these 30 questions, if you are able to solve something around 20 to 25 questions also, then also your work is done. You have 70 questions in a static portion, and there you can get at least 50 questions in correct manner. So see here, 50 and plus 20, 70, you have already reached that target. If you have solved 70 questions correctly, in any case you will be scoring good marks. You will be above that cutoff line. Okay. So this is what you have to understand. There is no need to multiply the sources of current affairs. Not for the prelims purpose. Okay. Not for the prelims point of view. If you are able to do 20 to 25%, 20 to 25 questions out of 30, that is more than sufficient. You should not be running and collecting all the materials for those remaining 5 questions. Okay. That is the first thing you have to understand. Okay. Now, let us look at the mains examination. Can you tell me, like, in which paper we can see the dominance of current affairs? You know, 4 papers are there, GS paper 1, 2 and 3, 4. Okay. So in which of them we have dominance of current affairs? Anyone? Where do you find the dominance of these things? GS paper 3, okay. GS paper 2, GS paper 3, okay. Yes, I have got certain answers, GS paper 2, GS paper 3. Now see here one thing. If we look at the mains paper, in GS paper 1, here you are mostly having these things like the portions of history, art and culture is there. Okay. You also have portions of geography. Okay. Then we also have one segment of society. Now earlier, if you used to see this, earlier it was mostly dominated by the static section. Okay. It was a static dominated thing. But nowadays you will find that certain mix of current affairs is also there in GS paper 1. Not too much, but you will find that it is like 80% static, okay, and 20% is dynamic in nature. And let us also understand that this dynamic nature of question, where it is being asked from. Okay. There are 2 possibilities here. One is related to your society portion, and the second one is related to your geography portion. Okay. Now you might be knowing that the tropical cyclones which are there, the temperate cyclones which are there, or any other climate related event, okay, like the monsoon which is there, the El Nino effect, La Nina effect, these are part of your static portion. But at the same time, we have been getting multiple reports that the nature, the orientation, the span, the intensity, the frequency of these events, they have been continuously changing. They have been getting aggravated. Some of them have got aggravated. Some of them have got minimized. Okay. So this is a continuous change that we are witnessing nowadays. Okay. At the same time, there are various vegetations also. Even in case of earlier, we used to believe that the deserts are mostly because of the climate orientation. But due to excessive irrigation, due to poor mismanagement or due to mismanagement, we are also getting arid areas in those places where we have sufficient amount of rainfall. You can take the example of Punjab, Haryana, Western UP also. Due to poor irrigation practices, now what we are seeing there? we are getting arid type of land. Okay. So things have been changing in this section of geography also. We have been seeing that new climate related events are happening. We have polar vortex, we have Arctic amplification. If you have seen the newspaper, have you heard about this word, Arctic amplification? Can anyone tell me if you haven't seen the newspaper? Have you heard this term, Arctic amplification? Have you seen this term in the newspapers, Arctic amplification? It was quite much there in perhaps in the last month or in the month of, yes, in the month of August itself. I think it was quite prominent news article, Arctic amplification. Have any one of you seen this? I'm not getting any answer, so I think you might have missed it. Now see, this Arctic amplification was there, and basically what was said that the global warming is there across the earth, but it is more prominent in the polar areas. That is what we call as polar amplification. Okay. But again, it has been seen, if we compare the two poles, North Pole and South Pole, it has been seen that the impact of global warming is more prominent in the Arctic region, in the northern pole region, and that is what we call as Arctic amplification. Okay. It is more prominent there, the impact of global warming, it is more prominent there, so that is what we call as Arctic amplification. Okay. Yes, that is what we call as Arctic amplification. So this was there in the news also. Okay. Now there can be a question from there. There can be a question based on that also, especially about this Arctic amplification. Time to time there is news about the ozone layer depletion. Sometimes there is about the coral reef ecosystem. Okay. Last year there was a report that around 14% of coral reefs, they have vanished in India. Okay. So these reports are quite much common there. Okay. And from here you might be getting certain questions also in GS paper 1. Okay. So still there is less dominance of current affairs, but it is there. Okay. So if you find certain articles related to geography or maybe society also, you should be aware about it. Okay. Now, let us see the second section, GS paper 2. Here we are getting polity, we are getting governance, we are getting social justice, we are getting IR. This is one such section where you will find that 70 to 80% dominance of current affairs is there. Okay. The current portion, the dynamic portion, it is having 70 to 80% of dominance here. Okay. Even in the static portion, they will try to link something from the current affairs, from the current issues which are there. Okay. So this is again a very prominent area. The IR, you will find that it is mostly towards this current affairs. You will rarely find some static question in the IR section. Same goes with governance, same goes with your social justice. You find most of the questions there, they are current oriented. You might get certain questions from the static portion of polity, but otherwise it is again current dominated. Okay. Then GS paper 3. Now this is again one area where we have economy, we have agriculture. Yes, agriculture is part of economy, but it is so much significant that we can count it separately also. Economy is there, agriculture is there, we have environment there, we have science tech there, we have disaster management there, we have internal security there. Now all these themes, they are current oriented. In this section you will find even more than that, 80 to 85% questions. 80 to 85% questions, they are current oriented. Okay. So these two papers are there, and for these two things you need to read the editorials, you need to read the current affairs or the newspapers on a regular basis. These are the two areas where you need most of the current affairs. Okay. And without current affairs, you won't be able to write much in these two papers. Okay. You might have a general knowledge about the different topics, but then giving that a specific, answering that question specifically with valid points, with valid arguments, with valid examples, it is not going to be possible until unless you have substantiated with current affairs. Okay. So this is where we need current affairs the most. Okay. Even in GS paper 4, If you have read current affairs holistically, you can put some examples there. You can give some examples in that. Okay. So GS paper 4 also it can help you. And of course in essay, you will find that in essay also, if you have been reading the current affairs for the different GS paper, you can use that in your essay also. Okay. So in all these things, in the mains, particularly in the mains examination, we have much more relevance of current affairs than the prelims. In prelims, if you have prepared the static portion holistically and a little bit of current affairs, you can still crack it. But for the mains examination, you cannot do it without the current affairs. Okay. So when you are reading the newspapers, this shall be your orientation also. This should be your orientation also. That when you are reading the news articles, when you are seeing something, it should be mains oriented first, and then we can look after the prelims things. But it should be mainly mains oriented. Okay. If you are reading some articles on daily basis, maybe if you are giving suppose 90 minutes, if you are giving 90 minutes to current affairs on daily basis right now, then out of that 90 minutes, at least 60 to 65 minutes should be mains oriented. And the remaining 30 minutes, it can be for prelims. That should be your weightage of time for the current affairs for prelims as well as mains examination. I hope that is clear. I hope that is clear. Okay. Now, let's see about like we will take it again approach paper wise or subject wise. Like if in newspapers, we will see this in two portions. First, we will see that subject wise, what are the things that we need to focus on in the newspapers, what we need to find out. Okay, that is one thing which we will do, and then we will take the newspaper of today also, and we will see what is there in the news article today. Okay, so that will be two portions of our discussion for today. First, we will see subject wise, and then we will see the newspaper also of today, and we will find out what are the articles which are necessary there. And I will be asking from you also that you have to find out, I will show you that newspaper here, and you have to find out what is important there, what is relevant for you there. Okay, so let's have first look on this one, that what we have to read exactly. See, I hope it is visible. I hope it is visible to all of you. This slide, is it visible to all of you? Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Now, let's have a look at it. Like, suppose we are seeing it subject wise. In case of history, what we can see that, suppose there is any such article which is related to Indus Valley civilization or Sangam age or anything like that. Okay, suppose there have been some new excavation or some new findings which are there. Maybe with respect to Sangam age, there is some article in the newspaper. Particularly, you will find that in the Hindu. Okay, or sometimes also in Indian Express. Okay, so if there is certain articles about the Indus Valley civilization or maybe Sangam age, the Gupta age, the Maurya age, or any such things, you can go through that article once. Try to find out if there is something relevant in there which you can use for your examination. Always, whenever you are reading the newspaper, whenever you are reading any article, try to ask yourself one question. Where will be this question asked in examination? how they can ask from this topic. This should be your first question. Okay. Once you are seeing some article, try to ask yourself, what are the things that can be asked from this particular article? Okay. From this particular news. Okay. So if you find something related to Indus Valley Civilization, Sangam Age, just go through it once. Okay. Then, suppose there is some monuments or architecture which is there in the news. Okay. Like, let us say that we have certain, maybe Humayun tomb is there, Taj Mahal is there in the news, maybe some other big monuments are there, maybe some temples from South India are there. Okay. Meenakshi temple, Brihadeshwar temple, or any temple, Jagannath Puri. Okay. So if these monuments are there and they are very much prominent also for us from the art and architecture point of view, okay, if they are there in the news for some, maybe some scientific reasons, or maybe due to some, not about some prayers or anything, not about the tourist influx or anything, but if they are finding their mention in the newspaper due to some significant change, maybe the area is getting disturbed, maybe the area is facing some threat, okay, or maybe some new thing has happened there for the first time, okay, in that case you can read about that thing. Okay. Suppose let us say that, you know, Taj Mahal. Okay. If you have heard this, you might have seen that the Taj Mahal, there were various industries in the vicinity of this area, and due to that it got yellow color, it got pale color. Okay. It acquired pale color, the marbles, it turned yellow due to the pollution because of the industries that were lying in its vicinity. Okay. So due to that it has acquired that color. Now, so threat is there to the monument. Okay. In that case you can read about that thing. In that case you can read about that article. But suppose that there is a simple thing that in certain temple there is some festival or some yatra has been organized, something has been done. Okay. Now this is a common thing, it is happening on daily basis. So you not need to, there is no such need to read about that article. Okay. There is no such need to read about that thing. If some imminent problem has arisen, some major change has happened, then only you need to see that. Okay. Maybe it can be taken up by UNESCO for World Heritage Site. Suppose there is a new site in India, or ancient architecture or monument is there, and it has been inscribed by UNESCO as World Heritage Site. Okay. In that case you can read about it. Okay. So if some architecture or monuments are there, or UNESCO World Heritage Sites are there, okay, you can read about it. Okay. Then suppose some painting, music, or classical dance. Now sometimes you will find that they are also there in the art and literature section of the newspaper, or movie section of the newspaper, they are also mentioned there. But you don't have to see that. Okay. Suppose some scheme has been started by the government to revive some of the traditional things, maybe some classical music, classical dance, maybe some paintings. Okay. If some scheme has been launched or some major announcement has been done, okay, in that case you can read about that thing. Okay. Or you can also imagine this, you know that at the during this Republic Day parade, there is also showing of multiple types of classical dances, some sort of art and art forms, maybe some paintings, maybe some music which there. Okay. If it is there at national level, then you can read about it. Okay. So if some cultural thing has happened during the Republic Day parade, okay, some art form, some literature, something has been highlighted there, then in that case again you can read about that news article. Okay. Then suppose some social reformers are there, and many a times we are celebrating their 100 years or 150 years or 200 years, like Raja Ram Mohan Roy is there, Rabindranath Tagore is there, Mahatma Gandhi is there, okay, or Ishwar Chand Vidyasagar is there. So these social reformers, suppose there is 100 anniversary or 150 anniversary or anything like that. Okay. In that case they acquire quite significance. During that time you will find that they are continuously mentioned in the newspaper. Okay. So if you find some of them in the newspapers, maybe you have read certain article about Bhimrao Ambedkar, okay, or you might have heard about any other social reformer, okay, then in that case you can read that article. Okay. That is another thing. Okay. Is there some problem with the audio? I hope it is, I hope all of you are getting it. Anyone from September batch? Are you getting the audio properly? Okay, fine, fine. Okay. So see, this is certain things which you have to read on daily basis. These are certain things which has to be read on daily basis. But let us say that there is some daily performance by some artist, maybe of some classical dances, some paintings is there on daily basis, some performance has been done at any art or theater, any theater or any other place. Then there is no such need to read those articles also. Okay, you don't have to read those things. Okay. So it is equally important to understand that what not to read. Okay. If some is there is some daily performance, or maybe at certain sites, maybe some historical sites are there, like Taj Mahal is there, Red Fort is there. So you might have seen certain news that large number of tourists have gathered there. Okay, or maybe many foreign tourists are coming there. Okay, now these articles are not necessary for us. This is not something which is required for us. Okay, so you can skip those articles. Okay, then see the second portion, geography section. Okay, what you have to do there now in geography, like I told you, suppose there is some change in El Nino, La Nina, or maybe the different oceanic currents which are there. Okay, sometimes there is change or reversal of cyclones. Some cyclones are originating in Bay of Bengal, some in Arabian Sea. Okay, now these cyclones, they are also relevant from prelims point of view, plus their occurrence, their frequency, the intensity, it becomes relevant for your mains examination. Okay, so some times ago there was recurving of cyclones. Okay, the El Nino or La Nina phenomena, this is also quite prominent in the news. Okay, so these type of things which are there, and they have been acquiring some significance, especially in the context of climate change. Okay, so these have also become prominent now, the weather patterns, the climate. Okay, and if you find certain articles about them, you can read it. Okay, like polar vortex was quite in news last year. Okay, this time Arctic amplification is there in the news. Okay, so if these things are coming, again you can read about them. Okay, coral reef ecosystem, you might have heard about that, or mangrove ecosystem, they are also quite much in the news from time to time. If they are also there, you can read about them. Okay, now what not to read in geography section? Suppose there is one news that there have been heavy rainfall in Delhi last night. Okay, now there might be rainfall, there might be flood also, but this is not something which we have to read on regular basis. Okay, now you know that there was recently this news article that especially in Gurugram or in Bangalore, we have seen huge amount of floods there. Especially in Bangalore, we have seen that the amount of flood was massive. Many of the areas, residential areas, were entirely flooded. Okay, now it is a matter of concern for the citizens there. Okay, and it is not something which is just happening in Bangalore. You can see even in Gurugram it has happened. In case of Chennai it has happened. In case of Mumbai it has happened. Delhi it is quite regular. Okay, so these things are happening there. Even in case of Ahmedabad we have seen this. Okay, so these things are there. Now we don't have to focus on individual cities. Rather than that, we have to analyze the issue, and the issue will be urban floods. Okay, so we don't have to see the individual topic of one particular thing, that what happened in Bangalore or what happened in Ahmedabad. Okay, we have to take this topic altogether. We have to see what are the factors responsible behind urban floods. What are the loopholes of our policies? What are the loopholes of our city planning? Okay, what steps can be taken in this regard? Okay, so we have to analyze that topic completely rather than reading about the news. Okay, so if you are willing to read about the urban floods or any such flood in urban areas, don't go about specific articles of Bangalore flood or Ahmedabad flood or any other flood. Try to analyze that issue itself, that urban floods are happening, what are the regions. Okay, I hope it is clear now that what you have to see in geography and history. Now, let's come to the next segment. See, the another thing which we have to see is the society and social justice part. Okay. See here. Now, you will find that we have taken these two topics together, society from GS paper 1 and social justice from GS paper 2. Okay. There are certain themes here like women, children, weaker or marginalized section. Okay. And you will find that there is some news articles about them from time to time. Maybe some scheme has been launched by government, maybe some laws have been enacted, maybe some policy measures have been taken place. Okay. So in case of any of these things, you have to see that news article. Suppose there is a new law of preventing the children from the small children, the small kids are there. If we want to prevent them from the menace of child labor and some laws have been enacted from that purpose, then you can read about it. Okay. Or maybe like suppose that the government has announced certain sort of quota or certain sort of reservation for any weaker section of society and it is there in the news articles, then you can read about it. Now here you have to understand one thing. You don't have to read about state specific articles until unless you are preparing also for state PCS. Okay. If you are not preparing for state PCS, if you are just focusing on UPSC, then in that case you don't have to read state specific reservation thing. Okay. If something is happening at union level, at the national level, then you can read about it. Otherwise, many states are announcing some measures for maybe some marginalized section, some weaker section. They have been announcing number of quota or reservations. Now we don't have to read individually about each and every state. Okay. From your state, and if you are going to appear for PSC of that state, you can read that. Otherwise, you can simply leave it. Okay. Focus on the union schemes rather than the state level schemes. Okay. Sometimes state level schemes can be used as an example in writing the mains answer. That is their only relevance. We don't have to see them in detail. Rather than that, we have to just get the idea. Okay. So suppose maybe with respect to women, some of the government, some of the state level government, they have announced some very innovative scheme for providing them employment or giving them some sort of pension or anything. Then you can pick that scheme as an example, not as a complete topic itself, but just an example. That is what we have to understand here. Okay. Otherwise, if some laws, policies are there, or maybe sometimes you will find various reports are also there, crime reports are also there. Okay. So you can read that thing, or maybe some quota reservation or schemes are there. Okay. In that case, you can again read about it. Okay. Otherwise, it's fine. Okay. Then, suppose you are reading some editorials about women, children or marginalized section. You will find that there will be some facts there. Okay. Maybe they can give you fact that, like if you are talking about women, you will find that in India we have around 57% of women who are anemic in nature. They have this problem of anemia. Okay. So if these sort of facts are mentioned in your newspapers or particularly editorials, then you can note down those facts. If they are telling you that what is the participation of women in labor force, and they are giving you certain facts, that is 19%, 21% or 27%, you can again note it down. Okay. So from these sections, you can prepare some notes. Okay. And see, especially there are 5 demographies. Okay. One is women, children, youth, elderly and marginalized. Okay. For these 4, you can prepare a theme wise notes also. Okay. Like you can have 2 or 3 pages or one entire thing for this women. Whenever something is coming about women, you can note it down on one single page. Okay. Or maybe you can have a club of 2 or 3 pages or 4 pages, and in that if something is there about women, you can note it down. Maybe sometimes it will be some schemes, sometimes it may be some laws, sometimes it may be some policies there. Okay, so you can have a entire like a set of notes on all these themes, for the youth also, for elderly also, for children also, and for women also. Okay, you can make separate notes for them. Okay, there are separate themes for you, especially these four. You can prepare holistic notes for them. Okay, sometimes you will get certain facts. Okay, like you can get facts about the malnutrition in case of children, you can get about the employment of youth, or you can get about the numbers of elderly in India. Okay, whenever you are getting certain facts, you can note it down. Okay, then there is also a possibility sometimes they will give you certain suggestions. Okay, or they will highlight certain points about challenges for women at the workplace. Okay, or economic challenges for women. Okay, sometimes there will be some news articles about educational challenges for children. Okay, or sometimes there can be articles about employment challenges for youth. Okay, so whenever these things are coming up, you can just note it down on one singular page or maybe a club of pages, and that would help you immensely in writing the mains answer. If you prepare for these four separately, women, youth, elderly and children, you will find that in writing the answer in GS paper 2 as well as 3, you will find quite a bit of help there. Even in writing the essay section, you will be getting quite a helpful things from these four things. Okay, women, elderly, youth and children. And the fifth one is marginalized section, the poor people or the weaker people. Now there is multiple division is there. Okay, so I'm not going into that right now because you have not covered various part of your syllabus. Okay, but you will find that sometimes for poor people we have different schemes. Okay, sometimes for some weaker section of society we have different schemes. Okay, so again you can read about them also. For the vulnerable section, for the weaker section of society, if some laws, policy or schemes is there, if some editorial is about there, about what are the challenges for them, you can again note it down. Okay, but for these four, you must note down some articles. You must note down certain facts. You must note down certain reports or suggestions. Okay, I hope these four are clear to you, what you have to do there. From September batch, I am not getting any query or any question. Are you getting these things? Those who have started the classes last day. Okay, see, so this is the part of your social issues and this is part of society and social justice. Then see this second portion, polity and governance. Okay, now here you will find that a lot of articles are there, a lot of things are there in the news continuously from the polity section and from the governance section as well. Okay, but we don't have to read all the news articles, all the different laws, all the policies. Okay, like let us say that MG Narega. Okay, MG Narega, like you know, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, MG Narega. This is one such article, or this is one such particular scheme which is continuously there in the news. Every week you will find certain articles about it. Maybe sometimes about some corruption in there, some challenges which are there, a few challenges. It's not like it is a comprehensive article. There are some, maybe at some state level in any particular district, some challenge has emerged in MG Narega, or maybe the fund was not released on time, or anything like that. Okay, now these sort of schemes are there on continuous basis. Okay, and you don't have to read each and every article related to them. Okay, until unless some major change is happening. Okay, suppose we are changing the entire nature of MG Narega. Okay, we have changed the entire nature. Like earlier it was just for the unskilled laborers, and we have shifted down and we are saying that no, now we will also have skilled labor and they will also be provided job under MG Narega. Okay, it has not happened yet, but I am just saying hypothetically that maybe if in the future it is done, then in that case you can note it down. Okay. Or some editorial is there, some explained page is there about this MG Narega scheme, then you can read it down. Okay. Otherwise, you can simply ignore it. Okay. Now, suppose that some new bill or act has come up for the first time. Let us say that new bill, like right now we have this Wildlife Protection Act, it is getting amended. Okay, so a bill is there, Wildlife Protection Act 1972 bill, a bill to amend that act, it is there. Okay, and there is going to be some major change. Even for Biological Diversity Act, there is a bill which is pending with Parliament, and there is going to be some major change there. Okay, so if some major change is happening in any particular act or a new bill has been introduced altogether, then you can read about it. Okay, or let us say that there is some article about functioning of the parliament. When the parliament session is nearly over, or even during the session of the parliament, you will find that sometimes there are certain articles or editorials about the functioning of the parliament. Okay, like they will give you what has been the efficiency of parliament, how many days it has made, how many number of bills have been passed, how many disruptions were there, what has been the outcome of this, what has been outcome in the last 10 years or 20 years or since independence. Okay, so if these type of articles are there about the functioning of the parliament, then again you can read about that thing. Otherwise, suppose that there is normal disruption, some MPs of this party and that party, they have been fighting with each other, saying abusive words to each other on daily basis in the parliament, you don't have to read about it. Okay, until unless there is a complete report about its functioning, you don't have to see the daily proceedings. For the parliament, we don't have to see the daily proceedings. We have to see the final outcome. Okay, so I will advise you, like whenever some parliament session is happening, there will be continuous news article. Wait for those things to get over, wait for the headlines to get over, and wait for the editorials. Once the editorials have come, that what has been the efficiency of parliament, or what has, like there may be some editorials on a particular topic, okay, then you can read about that. You don't have to see the daily proceeding, you have to wait for the final outcome. That is what is needed for you. Okay. You have to just ask your question in this WhatsApp group itself. If you have any question, if you have any query, you can ask there in the WhatsApp group itself. Okay. Okay. Now, see, this is the portion of polity and governance. Okay. Then we also have this section, important judgment of judiciary. Now, you know that judiciary is working on daily basis, and daily there is some sort of judgment being passed. Okay, some sort of verdict is coming up. Now, you don't have to see all those judgments. You have to see those judgments which are going to have some impact on the fundamental rights. Okay, if there is some judgment of the Supreme Court and it is going to have some impact on our fundamental rights, then you can read about it. Okay, or if it is going to have some impact on the federal structure, like the union-state relation, then you can again read about it. Suppose there is a new judgment given by Supreme Court that union government or the union executive, they cannot impose precedent rule in any state without proper consultation with, maybe you can talk about president, or maybe about this Chief Justice of India. Okay, this is a hypothetical thing. I'm just giving an example. Like suppose they say that union government cannot impose precedent rule directly without the approval of parliament. Okay, in that case also, if some news article is there, you can read about it. Okay, some judgment has been given which is going to impact the union-state relation or the federal structure of the country, then it becomes important for you. Okay, like you might have seen, there have been various judgment in the recent past. Some of them, they have bearing on the privacy of the citizens. Okay, Puttaswamy judgment is quite famous. Okay, so if these judgments are there and they have a direct impact on our fundamental rights or the federal structure or other basic structure of the constitution, then you can read about it. Okay, Suppose judiciary has given certain thing about the functioning of maybe the parliament, or maybe the role of a speaker, or maybe about the governor itself. Okay, then in that case again you can read about it. Otherwise, daily judgments, daily comment, these things are not necessary for you. Okay, there is daily some comment from Supreme Court. Okay, now you don't have to see it on daily basis. You have to find certain thing which is there as a final judgment. You have to wait for that. Okay, you will find that there are multiple articles in the newspaper which is like Supreme Court has scolded the union executive or scolded the state executive for this particular thing. Now, okay, that is a news article. It may be important or it may be interesting, but that is not something which can be asked in the examination. Why would UPSC ask you that in which particular case Supreme Court has scolded this particular state government? They will not ask you that. Okay, so you have to find out whenever you are reading any news article, try to ask yourself this thing: what question may be framed on the basis of this news article? That should be your main guidance. Okay. If it is having implication on fundamental right, it is important. Having implication on federal structure, it is important. Having implication on basic structure of constitution, it is important. Otherwise, we can skip it. Okay. Then, suppose some new scheme is there. Okay, you will find that government has been announcing a plethora of schemes, a number of schemes which are there. Okay, and some new schemes has been launched. That was like big nature. Okay, it is not a very simple scheme, just like production linked incentive for textile industry. Okay, production linked incentive for MSME industry, production linked incentive for semiconductor industry, or production linked incentive for maybe let us say that automobile industry. Now these are very small scale schemes. This is not something UPSC will ask. Okay, but suppose there is a scheme such as Ujjwala Yojana, under which LPG connection will be provided to the various households, more than 5 crore households in the entire country. Now that is a scheme of great nature. Okay, great stature. If suppose there is a scheme such as this what we can say PM Ujala scheme also, for the efficiency of these for the efficient use of electricity. Okay, or maybe there is a scheme such as MG Narega and it has been launched for the first time. Okay, or maybe there is some scheme maybe in any other sector for health, Ayushman Bharat. Okay, so some big stature scheme is coming up. This is going to transform the country, or this is going to benefit a large number of people. In that case, you can read about it. Otherwise, each and every day some decision will be taken by the ministries, and you don't have to track each and every decision of the ministry. That is not your work. Okay, you have to find out something which is transformational in nature, which is going to have a long-term impact. Okay, this is what you have to find. If there is a short-term initiative, what will be the benefit of that for you? Okay, will UPSC ask you that in this particular month, what scheme has been launched by this ministry? Suppose ministry has launched some awareness campaign for 15 days. Suppose that there is a Ministry of Petroleum also, Ministry of Road Transport is there. Let us take about this Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, and they have launched a 1 week awareness campaign on road safety. Okay, but this is not something which will be asked in prelims or mains examination. Why they will ask you that in which particular time the Union Ministry of Road Transport and Highway has launched this awareness campaign, or what has been the benefit of it? This was a 7-day campaign. It ended with that. Okay, so it is not going to help you in long term. It is not going to, just for understanding that thing, just for interesting topic, you can find it, you can read it. Okay, but from UPSC point of view, it is not relevant. Okay, so search for those schemes, try to find out what is going to be their impact. If the impact is huge, then you should be more concerned about it. If it is not, you can simply see it and leave it. Okay. Now, if schemes are there, how you can analyze it, or what are the things which you should not be missing at all? Okay. Suppose that there is certain schemes. Okay. What you can do, in case of any scheme, you can first try to find out which ministry is going to be the nodal ministry of it. which is going to be the enforcement agency of this particular scheme. Okay, that should be your first agenda. Then find out who will be the beneficiary, the target group, who will be getting the benefit of that scheme. And here you have to do certain things. Find out who will be included under that scheme, who will be getting the benefit of the scheme, and who won't be getting, who will be excluded. Okay, these are two very much important areas from where you will be getting question in prelims examination. Okay, these are the areas from where you will get questions in prelims examination. Okay, ministry and target group. Okay, this is very important. Then you can also see about the major objective of the scheme, what that scheme wants to do. Okay, what is going to be the major objective. Okay, and this is something which you can relate with mains. Okay, it can be asked in prelims also, one-liner statement can be there, but then in mains it is going to help you in a great manner. Okay, the objective is often multi-dimensional in bigger schemes. Like when we talk about, let us say that there is this scheme of Swachh Bharat Mission. Okay, now Swachh Bharat Mission has multiple dimensions. It is not just about cleanliness, it is also about the health. It is about the drinking water. It is about the cleanness of rivers. It is about the environmental pollution. It is about also attracting tourism. It is also about promoting waste to wealth conversion or waste to energy. So there can be multiple dimensions of certain schemes, especially of great stature. Okay, like Swachh Bharat Mission is there. You know there are multiple implications of it. If we talk about even the MG Narega scheme, you know that there is multiple dimension of it. If we talk about minimum support price, it is again have multiple dimension. Okay, so the objective, it is going to help you in mains examination. Okay, then try to find out this one also. What is the fund sharing arrangement? Whether the scheme will be funded entirely by the central government or there will be some contribution from the state government also. If it is fully funded by the central government, it will be called as central sector scheme. If it is partially funded by union and partially funded by state, then it will be called as centrally sponsored scheme. Okay, centrally sector scheme or centrally sponsored scheme. This is also you have to find. Okay, then this one is also very important. Time frame of the scheme. In what time we are going to complete that thing. Okay, what should be the time frame of that particular scheme. Okay, this is again something which you can find out. Okay, and then uniqueness. Okay, in some of the schemes you will find that there is some unique nature. Okay, like let me give you one example. There have been multiple schemes for reform in urban areas in India, for transforming the infrastructure of urban areas. Okay, but you will find that there is a scheme, Smart City Mission. Okay, in a Smart City Mission, it is entirely different. Okay, how it is different? Let us talk about it a little bit. Okay, in the previous schemes, what used to be done? We used to focus on particular project. Okay, like there may be focus on drainage, there might be focus on transportation, there might be focus on cleanliness. Okay, there might be focus on drinking water supply. Okay, so individual projects were identified and there was work done on those basis. Okay, so it may have happened that certain areas, certain part of a urban area has been improved and the other parts are missing. Maybe it can happen that in one urban areas you have very good roadways, you have better public transportation also, you have drainage also, but then electricity is not there. Okay, then you might also find that network connectivity is poor. Then you can find that no proper space has been provided for vendors, no proper space has been provided for parking, no proper arrangement has been done for meeting the energy need of the city. Okay, so it may have happened, even it may happen that there is no proper drinking water arrangement. Okay, so in those schemes there was focus on individual projects. Okay, but in a smart city there is focus on the entire area. This is area based approach. Earlier there was project based approach. Now in a smart city there is area based approach. We have selected one area and in that area we will provide all the things which are necessary to make that area livable. Okay, so that is the uniqueness of the scheme. It is focusing not on projects, it is focusing on the entire area itself. Okay, so sometimes you will find that the schemes are coming with certain uniqueness in them. Okay, we have learned from the mistakes of the past and we are improving. So some uniqueness will be there, some difference will be there, some difference in the approach might be there. So you have to identify that difference in the approach. Okay, this is going to help you also in writing the mains examination. Sometimes you will be asked to compare the different schemes of the government. Okay, and if you know the uniqueness of certain schemes, you can understand it. Okay, then you can also see from the mains perspective the challenges or the loopholes of the schemes. Challenges or loopholes of the scheme. Okay, this is again one area which you can find in the different schemes which are there. Okay, this is how you have to analyze the schemes. Okay, now I hope it is clear. Any questions so far? Just give me a second. Okay, I hope it is clear to all of you now that what we have to see in polity section, governance section, social issue and society. Just let me know once if it is clear. See, there is one question. Before the parliament gives the final outcome, do we need to note down the things which are taking place before the final outcome? Let us take this by an example. Suppose that there is a particular bill and it is there in the parliament for discussion. So daily discussions are taking place and some of the members may be highlighting some of the challenges with the scheme. Government might be saying in the favor of that particular bill or that particular act. So there is continuous debate for, let us say, that 2 or 3 days. Okay, and daily news articles are coming there. Okay, from the point of the government, also from the point of opposition, also some articles are coming on daily basis. Okay, but the act has not been passed yet. Okay, so in that case, suppose the act has been passed and with some modification. Okay, maybe the government had changed its stance later and it has it has followed what the opposition have said. So now there won't be any utility of what government has said earlier. Okay, let us say that, let us talk about one particular thing. Like, see that there was recently a bill about this agriculture policy, MSP and other things. Okay, now the different parties, even during the bill formation stage, they were saying different things. Somewhere in the favor, somewhere in the against, they were highlighting various issues. Okay, even with this recently data protection bill was also there, data privacy bill. Okay, and there have been multiple articles about it, but it was not finalized yet. Okay, it was not done yet. Okay, so regular session was going on and in the parliament there was continuous discussion for maybe 2 or 3 days. Okay, and you know that the bill is going to be passed in next 1 week. Okay, so there is no need to see the daily update. Let the bill get passed from the parliament. Once it is there, once the final thing has come up, then you can read about it. No need to follow the daily basis articles on that particular bill. If it is already there in parliament and discussion is happening on daily basis, some news articles are coming, skip those. Wait for the final act. Once it has come, now see the provisions. Okay. Then it is going to be helpful for you. Okay. But at the same time, remember one thing. Sometimes UPSC is also asking questions on some bills also, which is pending with parliament. Okay. But it is not like there is regular discussion over that bill in the parliament. It is there pending with parliament. Maybe it has gone to some committee stage or anything. Okay, it is there in parliament, but there is no such daily discussion. Government has just introduced that bill and it has asked for comment from different section. Now, it will be necessary for you to read that bill. Okay, read the different opinion about that bill. But if something is changing there on daily basis, you don't have to follow that. Wait for the final thing to come. Okay, this is what you have to do. I hope it is clear. Okay, now, okay, fine. Okay, see here. Now we have the next section, international relation and world affairs. Okay. Now here we have to find certain things. If there is any news about India's relation with rest of the world, maybe there is some article about India and Japan relations, India and US relation, India and Russia relation, India and Australia relation. Okay. If it is there, then you have to read that particular section. Okay. India's relation with the rest of world, you can read it. Okay. Now, if there is anything, suppose that some global institutions are there, like United Nations General Assembly, United Nations Security Council, World Health Organization, and there is going to be some change in there, there is going to be some reform in there. Okay. In that case, again, you can talk about it. There, time to time, you will find that there are certain editorials about reform in United Nations, about reforms in WHO, about reforms in various other organizations like IMF, like World Bank. Okay. So if these articles are there, you can read them. Okay. Any major reforms in global institutions, you can read them. Okay. Now, one more thing is there, a major change in global order. Okay. Understand this. This is very important. Okay. And this is one such section where you will get daily news articles. Okay. Suppose that Russia-Ukraine war is going on, and during this entire thing, a lot of things is happening in the world. Europe is sometimes imposing some sanctions on Russia. US is also doing the same thing. On the next day or in the next week, they are reversing their decision. They are changing the decision that once they have decided that we will not purchase any oil from Russia. But later on, after 1 week, they say that, okay, we can relax it a little bit. Maybe about the gas, they have done the same thing. About the different export and import, they have done the same thing. Okay. So if these things are happening on daily basis, some crisis between or some daily spat between China and US. US has said one thing about Hong Kong, China has said another thing about US. Okay. If these things are there on continuous basis, okay, like you can see about US and North Korea, US and China, US and Russia, okay, their spat is continuous. They are continuously accusing each other. Okay. Now you don't have to see that on daily basis. But if there is a major change in the global order, okay, if there is a major change in global order, okay, suppose there is an alliance between US and China on some particular matter in a comprehensive manner, then it becomes important for us. Okay. Like you can see, there was a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago, there was a deal between US and Iran about nuclear armaments and other things. Okay. So at that time, it was very important. Okay. It had changed the global order. Iran was like, the sanctions were lifted. Now it can trade with the rest of the world, even with India. Okay. So that was a major shift. Recently, you might have found there have been friendly relations between Israel and Arab countries. Okay. So now that is a major shift in global order. Israel and Arab countries, they have been fighting for each other, fighting with each other for more than 60, 70 years. Okay. But now they are coming closer. They are signing different treaties. So it is going to have an impact on the global order. Okay. If these changes are there, if major changes there, then you can read about it. Otherwise, the daily scuffle which is going on, daily spat between US president and Chinese premier, you don't have to read that. Okay. So this is what you have to see. Okay. Then suppose there is any international event that has been attended by Indian Prime Minister or President. Let us say that there is some United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, COP, Conference of Parties. Okay. And it has been attended by Indian Prime Minister or President. Okay. Then in that case, it becomes important for us. Okay. If it has been visited by some high-level dignitaries from India, then it is important. You know, in most of these meetings, Indian delegates will be there. But sometimes the meetings are very crucial. Okay. And in that, Indian people may be there. Indian high-level dignitaries like Prime Minister, President, they will be going there. In that case, it becomes important. Suppose there is a G20 summit, okay, or G7 summit, okay, and in that, India is also participating. In G20, India is there. But suppose G7 summit is there. India is not a member of G7, but still, it has been invited and Indian Prime Minister is going there. Then it becomes important for us to know what is G7, what has been the objective of this meeting, what is the relevance of G7 for us. All these things become important. Okay. So some major events which are attended by Indian Prime Minister or President, it becomes important for us. Okay. Okay. Global conferences, not the like any political rally or anything, any public gathering, it is not for us. Okay. Suppose Indian Prime Minister is going and addressing the diaspora in any country, maybe in US, maybe in Australia, maybe in any other country. That diaspora address, it is not important for us. But if Indian President or Indian Prime Minister is giving certain speech at United Nations General Assembly, okay, then it becomes important for us. Okay. So this is what we have to see. Okay. Now, one more thing, what not to read here. Okay. You will find that, like if we talk about India-Japan relations or India-Australia relation, India-US relation, we will find that there will be some update in the bilateral relations on daily basis. Some treaties, minor things will be, there will be some updation, there will be some addition, there will be some modification on daily basis, but no major change. Okay. There will be continuous article about it, okay, that India has extended 100 million grant to Bangladesh. That much simple news. Okay. Now it is not going to be important for you. Why you have to read that in detail? You can simply see that news and it's over. Okay. India extended some benefit to Maldives. Okay. Now you can just simply read that article and skip it. You don't have to go in detail of it. Okay. So some daily update is there, some daily change is there. You don't have to see that. Some major shift, some trade deal for the first time or some major amendment, then you have to follow that. I hope it is clear what we have to see in IR and world affairs. Just tell me one thing. Suppose US and Chinese trade war is going on. Trade war between US and China is going on, and in that case, US has imposed some high level tariff on certain Chinese good, and China has done the same thing. It has imposed high level tariff on certain US good. Okay. So do we have to read that? Do we have to read that? Sudhir, can you be a little bit more specific what you are asking about? It is part of international relation. Can you give the context of that? not related to India. Okay, yes, see, there is a certain article which is not related to India, maybe uh, like we have just taken this example, US and China, they have imposed trade restrictions on each other. Okay, now it can be part of world affairs, but why UPSC will ask us that what will be the implication of the trade war on the Chinese economy or on the US economy? Okay, it is not going to be relevant for us. What US and China are doing to each other, this is their matter, and they are continuously changing the policy. US and China will find that they are continuously changing their policy. There is daily scuffle, there is daily spat between them. Okay, so we don't have to see there. Okay, we don't have to find what is going to be the, what are those things on which higher level of tariff have been imposed. Okay, now you may think that if US and China are going into trade war, it is going to benefit us at large scale. That is just a hope. You know that India is not very much into this manufacturing sector. We are not that much prominent player in this export regime also. So if China is not there, there are other countries which will be replacing China. Or if China is not taking from US, it can take from other countries of the world, from other portions of the Europe. Okay, so it is not going to have any major impact on us. It was said that, like you can see this, we have been seeing that in the last 4 or 5 years, there have been major scuffle between China and US. And it was said that due to this, most of the mobile phone companies or technologies company, they will shift towards India. They will set up their manufacturing base in India. You have seen 5 years have gone. Have we seen any major change here? Have we got any major manufacturing industry of mobiles or anything in India? The answer is no. We're still there in just assembly things. Okay, the war between US and China, the trade war which is going there, it has not benefited us in that extent. Okay, so there is no such major impact on India. Even their economy is not changing a bit. Okay, the question was simply, if there is maybe if China has imposed some trade, some higher level of tariff, some higher level of tax on US good, and US has also imposed higher level of tax on Chinese good, do we have to see that news? The answer is no. Until unless it is having direct implications of India, until unless it is having serious impact on India, we don't have to see that news article. That is the simple thing. Okay, and see, these are daily changing things. Okay, sometimes they are imposing some trade sanction on each other. The next week they are lifting it. Again, next week they are changing it. Okay, so these things are of daily nature. If you are seeing them, if you are going into detail of them, it is nothing but wastage of time. This is not something which you can be using in the mains examination or the prelims examination. Okay, I hope you got this. Okay, now see the next thing. Let's see the GS paper 3 section now. What to read in economy. Okay, if we talk about this section, just give me a second. See, now see here, in case of economy, suppose that there is some major change. There is some major change in economic policy of the country. Okay, like you have seen, there have been GST reforms. There have been also, like recently, RBI has amended rules of digital lending policy. There have been various measures for financial inclusion, like Jan Dhan Yojana was there. Okay, so if some major change is happening, we also have example of GST. Okay, so if any major thing is happening in case of economic policy, we have to comprehensively cover that section. Okay, if GST is there, maybe if financial inclusion new scheme has come up, okay, or new policy has come up for digital lending or for banking sector, okay, then in that case we have to read that policy in detail. But major change, not the minor change. Suppose that RBI has changed the repo rate. Do we have to read that? If there is any change in repo rate or reverse repo rate, the answer is no. Okay. We have to know what is the major policy tools of RBI, but we don't have to read about what is happening on daily basis with repo rate and reverse repo rate. By the time you are going for examination, there might have been a dozen of changes in repo rate and reverse repo rate. Okay. So we don't have to see the daily change or the weekly or monthly change in repo rate or reverse repo rate. Okay. By the time you go for the examination, there have been more than a dozen time changes in that. Okay. So we don't have to see or remember those rates of RBI or any other institution. Okay. We have to simply see what is their policy. We have to find out the liquidity adjustment facility of RBI, that you will be covering in a static section also. Okay. So here you don't have to update these things. But suppose that recently RBI has come with one thing, and the name was I'm just getting, it is not just coming to mind, but there is one such scheme in the month of April. Basically the context was this, that in India we have got a lot of liquidity. Liquidity means excess supply of money. In order to trap that, RBI has come up with this one scheme that is just slipping my mind, but there was one such scheme of RBI in order to control that thing. Okay. Now this was introduced for the first time. Like we have some other things like marginal standing facility, okay, or MCLR, marginal cost of lending rate. Okay. If these terms are there and they have been introduced for the first time by RBI, okay, then in that case we need to see these terms. If some scheme has been introduced by RBI for the first time, then we need to understand that. Otherwise, if there is daily change in some of the rates of these things, okay, we don't have to update that. If it has been done for the first time, we should just understand what it is. Okay, but we don't have to see or track the daily changes or weekly or monthly changes there. Okay. Now, just this thing. See, in the case of economy, you will find that they are asking questions on the basis of terms also. Okay, like they have given very simple question. They have simply asked, marginal cost of lending rate is frequently seen in the news. It is related with which of the following sector? And they give example like banking sector, agriculture sector, food processing sector, environment, okay, science and tech. Now you can easily choose that yes, it is related to banking sector. Okay. So these type of very simple things have been asked in UPSC prelims. So if new scheme or any change in major scheme has been done by RBI or the government, then you have to follow that. Otherwise, you can simply ignore it. Okay. So this is one thing you have to do. Okay. Now, at the same time, there are certain sections of our economy like MSME sector, food processing sector, agriculture sector. And if there is some new announcement by the government for these sectors, some new schemes, some new announcements, then you have to note that down. Okay. Suppose for MSME, if they have changed the definition of MSME altogether, that what will be a micro industry, what will be a small industry, what will be a medium industry, if they have changed the entire definition altogether, then we have to know that. Okay. If they have announced some major scheme for MSME, we have to know that. If they have done some new thing for agriculture, we have to know that. Okay. So if any major thing is happening, maybe in case of industry, maybe in case of any service sector, okay, in that case we have to understand that. Otherwise, see, economy is one such thing. You will find that there are numerous articles, numerous news articles about economy, but we don't have to read each and every of them. Just ask the same question to you. Will that be relevant when I am going for UPSC examination? Suppose RBI has changed repo rate today. Will that be relevant for you when you are going to appear for the prelims examination in 2024? Just ask this question to yourself. Okay. MSME is micro, small and medium enterprises. MSME is micro, small and medium enterprises. Okay. Now, I have already told you this portion. If new initiative by RBI is there, you can note it down. Okay. One thing which you can track is trend of major economic indicators. Okay, like forex reserve, trade deficit, trade surplus. Okay, and this is not something which you have to track on regular basis. This is something which you have to see like after 3 or 4 months, after 6 months. Okay, like suppose at the end of this year, in the new financial year, before we start that new financial year, you will have the budget and economic survey, and there you will find that the forex reserve trends have been given, that how the forex reserve means the foreign currency that we are having, the dollars, the euros, or the other currencies which we are having, it is about that. Okay, so there will be a trend, there will be a graph which will be indicating that in the last 5 years or 10 years, what has been the trend of these forex reserves, these foreign currencies. Okay, so if any trend is there, try to remember that trend, whether it has been growing, whether it has been fluctuating, or whether it has been decreasing. Okay, so try to see the trend, not the actual figure. Try to see the trend over the last 5 years, over the last 10 years or 20 years. Okay, in economy, they will be asking question about the trends also. Okay, so for the forex reserve, the trade deficit, the trade surplus, any sort of these things, you can see the articles. Okay. Now, just tell me one thing. You might be getting a lot of news articles from time to time that in this particular month of September, the inflation was at 7.5%. Okay, or in the month of April or in the month of June, the inflation was 8%. Do we have to see that news in detail? If the inflation related news article is there, do we have to see that? Yes, we have to just see the trend, not the entire thing, and the trend can be seen over 1 year. Okay, and for that I will advise you that wait for the economic survey. The economic survey will give you the glimpse of the trend of inflation over the last 1 year, over the last 2 or 3 years. They will give you the complete trend. Okay, so see from the economic survey rather than seeing it from like newspapers on daily basis. Okay. Yes, so that is what we have to remember, that we don't have to see the daily basis change. Suppose like SBI has given loan to some agency of the government or some department of the government, again it is not necessary for us. The loan taking and disbursal of the loans or anything, we don't have to see that. How much money was provided to one particular department or one particular ministry, again we don't have to see that. Okay, so don't read those articles. Just try to find out major change, new announcement, new initiative and trends. This is what you have to do in economy section. Okay. Now, let's come to the next portion of GS paper 3. Environment. See here, in case of environment, suppose that some species is there in the news. Right now we have one species which was there, African cheetah. Acha, can you tell me, okay, I will tell about the Sensex. Can you tell me that this African cheetah, in which national park it has been introduced in India? The African cheetah. Can you tell me which national park was there? Kuno National Park, yes, MP. Yes, there was this Kuno National Park which is there in Madhya Pradesh, and there it has been introduced. Okay. So now you will find that similar type of various schemes are there. Okay. Sorry, various species are there which are there in news from time to time. Okay. It is not that always we have reintroduction of various species. Sometimes you will find that certain of the species are there in reports because they are highly endangered. They are at a threat of extinction, or their population has declined significantly. Like you might know about great Indian bustard, you might know about the different other animals like vacuita porpoise. Okay, so if some species is there in the news, you have to find out that. Okay, if some species is there in the news, you can find that thing. Okay, that is one portion. Okay, yes, you are correct, Kuno National Park. Okay, so if a species is there in the news, you can see that. Okay, if some protected area is there, like this Kuno National Park is there, if suppose there is any other national park which is there in the news, you can again read in detail about this. Okay, if there is any law or policy related to environment, like you might see draft environment impact assessment bill was there, and there has been a question in the mains examination on this. You can see one thing, there was a draft environment impactment assessment bill. Okay, draft bill was there, and it was there introduced in June 2020, perhaps in June 2020 or May 2020, and there was a mains question on the same topic in December 2020. Okay, so if some new policy or new scheme has been announced by the government for environment related things, you can read about it. Okay, and you can do that in detail because there is no such major change in there. Like right now we have two things going on. Wildlife Protection Act, it is getting amended. Biological Diversity Act, it is also getting amended. So there are bills pending in parliament for them. You can see those bills also. If they are there in the news articles, you can read about it. Okay. Then if some institutions are there, like you know that we have NGT, National Green Tribunal. Okay. We have Central Pollution Control Board. Okay. We also have National Biodiversity Authority, Wildlife Crime Control Bureau, National Board for Wildlife. If these institutions are there and they are there in the newspapers, you can read about them also. Because in case of environment, they are asking questions about institutions as well. Okay, there are few institutions only, 5 or 6 institutions are there, and if they are there in the news, there can be a question about them. Okay. Then protocols and conventions. Acha, just you can answer me one thing. Have you heard about ozone? Have you heard about this Montreal Protocol? What it is related to? Montreal Protocol? What it is related to? Montreal Protocol. What it is related to? To freeze the use of CFC. Okay. To prevent ozone depletion. Yes, related to ozone depletion. Correct. Okay. So see, this Montreal Protocol is there, Vienna Convention is there, the Kyoto Protocol is there. There are a number of protocols related to that. Minamata Convention is there. Okay. So when these conventions or protocols, if they are there in the news, or there is some major change about them, there is some major conference related to environment, then you can again see that in newspaper. Like in the month of November and December, you will find that there is going to be some major conventions in this regard. The conference of parties of UNFCCC will take place there in month of November and December. And at that time, you will have certain news articles from there. Okay. So at that moment, you can read about it. Okay. So in month of November and December, there will be some articles about environment, prominent articles. Okay. So you can, yes, you all are correct. It is about protection of ozone layer. Okay. So if some protocols and conventions are coming, again you can read that thing. Okay. This is what you have to get in environment section. Okay. Then the next one, science and tech. Okay. Suppose that yes, related to ozone layer. Suppose that in science tech, you will find that new and emerging technologies are getting quite much prominent these days. Like we can talk about artificial intelligence, we can talk about virtual reality, we can talk about augmented reality, we can talk about Internet of Things, we can talk about the blockchain technology, we can talk about the non-fungible tokens which are there. Okay. So a number of things are coming up. This artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, optical fiber is there, 5G network is there. Okay. So all these things are coming up now. Okay. And if there is any such news article about them, okay, a major article which is explaining them, not the daily articles. Okay. Not the daily articles. If there is a major article explaining about them, then you can read it. Okay. Try to find out always the utility of the article which you are going to read. If it is having that much of information, then only have to be cautious about it. If there is simply one thing that artificial intelligence is going to be used in this particular city of this particular state, that is not very much relevant for you until unless they have explained it. Okay. That what is artificial intelligence, what are its implications, what are the benefits, what are the challenges, what are the policies. Okay. If there is a proper explained article about it, you should prefer that. Okay. So this is what you have to do in technology. Okay. Achha, just tell me one thing. Have you heard about one term, designer babies? Or there is another term, 3-parent baby. Three-parent baby or designer babies. Have you heard about them? If you can enlighten me a little bit about these things. CRISPR technology, DNA editing, okay, it is related to that. Yes, you might have read that in science day. Okay. So see, basically, these terms, designer babies, is like when we are trying to edit the genetic makeup of a child. Okay, means when we are like having a child, at that time if we are doing some genetic modification in there and we are trying to include certain genes in there, it will be called a designer baby. Okay. Now, 3-parent baby, designer babies, these are also very much like they're in the news from time to time. Okay. In United Kingdom, we have got a 3-parent baby a few years ago, and that was quite much there in the news. Perhaps in the last year itself, this was there. Okay. So these terms, new development which is happening in biotech, in the biotechnology, it is quite much frequent there. CRISPR-Cas9, it has transformed the entire thing. It has transformed the entire area of this biotechnology. Okay. And there we are getting GM crops. There we are getting designer babies or 3-parent babies. We are having this mitochondrial replacement therapy. Recently, one term was there, xenotransplantation. Okay, where we are trying to transplant the heart of a pig inside a human. Okay. So these terms are there and they are quite much there in the news articles. So if you find certain thing about these, then you can read that in newspaper. Okay. Some new development in biotechnology, you can read that. Okay. Then suppose there is new development in space technology, like recently we have seen James Webb Space Telescope. James Webb Space Telescope, it has enabled us to see into the past. Okay. It has enabled us to see into the past what happened some billions of years ago at the time of inception of the universe. What things were there? We have been able to see that with the help of James Webb Space Telescope. Okay. So if some things are coming like that, some major development in space tech, maybe some new mission of ISRO, some new prominent mission of NASA or other agencies of the world, if they are there, then also you should be concerned about it. Now, here we have to give more emphasis on the missions of ISRO. Okay. And if there is a major mission of NASA or any other agency, like European Space Agency or Chinese Space Agency or anything, yeah, then we can also be a little bit informed about them, but major focus should be on ISRO related events. Yes, you all are correct. Whose genetic makeup can be altered? See, whenever a new child is there, like the zygote formation happens, okay, and we can alter the genes of the baby even before the zygote formation or even after the zygote formation. Okay, so the zygote which is there, we can try to introduce some gene modification there, or we can also try to introduce gene modification even prior to that zygote formation. When there is the different sex cells from the male and female, we can introduce some genetic changes in there. We can remove some hereditary disease from there. If suppose some gene is responsible for some hereditary disease, we can remove that gene and we can provide some alternative gene there. Okay. So this is what we can do through this CRISPR-Cas9 technology. Okay. So some major development in space tech, you can again see that. Now, do understand one more thing. Suppose that there is some missile test which is happening from time to time. Like Agni 5 missile has been tested, Prithvi missile has been tested, or any other missile has been tested. On like this thing is happening on regular basis. Now you don't have to find out each and everything like that. Okay. If something has been introduced for first time, like suppose we got the Rafale jet. Okay. So it was a first time thing. We have to read it. Suppose we are getting S-400 from Russia, we have to know about the S-400 system. But then suppose that there is daily missile test, there is like testing of these missiles on daily basis. We don't have to read that. Okay. We don't have to see that what has been the outcome, how many times it has been tested, where it was tested. Okay. We don't have to see that. We have to see the major change.